Hey everybody, Ryan with Primary Arms Optics. I'm joined here by a couple friends. Want to say hello?
Hello, I'm Clayton with Pivotal Defense.
Jen from Pivotal Defense.
Wanted to sit down and have a little talk about pistol red dot sights. I think everyone at this point now has heard about them, and it's kind of becoming the standard across the industry. With, all new models of pistols now slowly moving towards optic cut as the standard. Talk about some considerations for why you should look at having a red dot, especially on like a carry pistol, if not just for the range. What the advantages are, and then what to consider when looking at picking one out. I guess we want to start there, weighing in. Talk a little bit about what you do that gives the background on your insight.
So we both are certified instructors. I've been taking classes now for several years. I have not, full disclosure, have not taken any red dot training, but I've been shooting for training, I should say, the big difference. But I've been training for a number of years now, so I've got a lot of time behind the gun. And I'm right now self-taught with the red dot. Like I said, no formal training, but I've got a lot of friends that they know the RDS system really well. Talking to them, and I kind of made the decision a number of years ago. Let's put one on a gun and see what it's all about. At first, when the RDS systems came out, I was like, "Yeah, I don't see it. I don't like it. Like, what's the point?" And then I started teaching myself, for the most part, that I could dry fire and things of that nature. And I'm like, I can see the advantage of this. I'm slowly getting on board with the RDS system. One of the biggest problems that I found, we'll start with the cons that I can think of right now off the top of my head, is finding the dot. Everybody has that problem, is finding the dot. I had that problem, and it is a learning curve. So when you're talking about the RDS systems, like you mentioned a little bit ago, most manufacturers now are coming out with at least one of their models optic ready, if not more. The red dot system is here to stay. So going on to finding the dot, that was my biggest issue starting into it. And I was like, I don't really like this because I couldn't find the dot. I'm used to irons. Like, I didn't really want to do nothing with it. I actually kind of set it aside for a while. I'm just kind of like, over there. I'm not going to worry about it. But I decided to bring it back up, work with it some more, and try to really understand it. And I fell in love with it, really. So I really enjoy shooting the RDS systems. Recently, she just got into it. So you want to touch on yours?
Yeah, what was that experience like for you?
So, gosh, in the last year or so, but before that I was running iron sights, and like, why do I need that? Why do I need that? And like, I felt like I could shoot fairly well with my iron sights, and then my carry gun, we receracoated it, and then we ended up putting a red dot on it, and I ran it through a training course, and I absolutely loved it. Yeah, I was hesitant for the longest time because I felt like I was cheating a little bit. But we're talking about shooting and self-defense shooting. If we have to cheat a little bit to make sure that we're on aim and on point of where we need to be, that's okay, in my opinion. But
I don't think it's just me, because I feel like I've heard that many times across the board from folks that, just like all of us, started out shooting iron sights and think, well, I'm very proficient, I can do this, why would I need anything else?
Yep.
I'm very good at it. I don't need something fancy like a red dot sight on a pistol. And there's that curve where finally they get past trying it for the first time and actually running it, getting used to it, and seeing, oh, this is easier. It's simpler for me to shoot. There's no reason not to take advantage of running one.
Right.
Now, I was under the philosophy years ago when I first started this too. You should learn how to run your irons before jumping into the red dot. My mind was changed shortly after that, and I listened to a good friend of ours, Ken Scott from Provectus Group, talk about that subject itself. He actually says get them on the dot sooner, and I agree with him. I agree with him because I have seen students come through our classes that I put them under iron sights and they just can't. They're just not getting it. They're not getting the sight alignment. They're not getting the sight picture. Because, with iron sights, you're trying to line up three things. You're trying to front sight, rear sight. There's a lot going on. So I put them under red dot. and they start hitting the target. And I could tell that they're having a more enjoyable experience. Okay, then I start talking to two of them in particular, found out that they have eye issues. So when I found that out, okay, so this is a huge benefit. People with stigmatism and or any other eye problems, this is really beneficial. And yet again, it comes with the learning curve and training, obviously. So to me, I agree with Ken a lot because you get them on that dot center, more enjoyable experience shooting. They're going to be able to, probably go out and buy a firearm, get a red dot, and they're going to start walking down that path. Mm-hmm. Where people are getting frustrated, I'm not shooting, I'm not hitting things with iron sights because they know they have these eye problems or the stigmatism or whatever it may be. Now they're having a better experience. Now we have more people, especially new shooters. That's what we want. We want these new shooters getting more involved with the firearm. And to me, that's been a huge, huge benefit. So I agree with Ken a lot on that. But
what would you say then to somebody that has astigmatism when they look at a traditional red dot and it's not a crisp, clean circle? You see some sort of deformation.
So I actually still have astigmatism. I had LASIK surgery done, I don't know how many years ago now. I still deal with astigmatism. So when I look at a red dot either on a rifle or now on pistols, I do have that with that starburst effect, mm-hmm. right? It's a learning curve. I've had to learn to deal with it a little bit. It's not as bad as it would have been without the correction surgery, but you learn to adapt to it. And with the reticles that are coming out, you have the donut of death, you have the dot, you have the dot and the circle. I mean, there's all kinds of reticles. The chevron from the ACSS, mm-hmm. which is phenomenal. So I tell people that, yeah, you might get a little frustrated at first because you're seeing that you're not going to see that crisp dot, but over time you adjust and you learn how to deal with that and work through it. I mean, I did, and to me, nowadays it doesn't even bother me. And right now, the way I have my dots set up is I'm running the single dots. I don't run the circle. I don't run anything else. So to me, I've just gotten used to it. It doesn't really bother me that much. So training, dry fire, all those things come into play. Mm-hmm. You'll adapt to it. Your eyes will.
So say you have someone come to a class, you put them onto a red dot or point them down that path, and now because everyone's like, you have a lot of really good choices across the board, across all manner of price points, for all different form factors as far as pistols are concerned, for different uses. How would you guide a prospective buyer into finding what's right for them, given so many options out there?
Ooh.
That's a good question, but I know that I actually introduced the ACSS to a few friends of ours and my cousin who had never shot red dot before.
And your dad.
Well, and my dad. And for them to have the circle around and to explain it to them, and they actually really enjoyed shooting red dot. It made it a little bit simpler for them, but definitely for new shooters and people with eyesight issues, I definitely recommend it. As far as just the ones that we've come across and we've really liked, we would definitely point towards them.
Touching back on the ACSS Vulcan, for me, I actually, since I've been shooting dots a little bit myself, that big circle mm-hmm. in the chevron, it kind of threw me off at first. I'm like, oh crap. Like, mm-hmm. So it really, but I love it now. Like, I've gotten used to it. I can see it. It still throws me off a little bit, but what I really enjoy about that optic and with that reticle, is the chevron. Mm-hmm. So you asked me about people with astigmatism and that crisp dot. There's my answer to that question. That chevron. And I know with the ACSS, you can actually shut that circle off and you can just have the chevron. Mm-hmm. To me, that is awesome. That chevron's really crisp for me. Everyone's different. So the chevron's crisp for me. You have that fine point of aim, point of impact. So that's actually probably my answer for that because I don't even see the starburst effect with that at all.
Okay.
And I've looked through that optic with that reticle several times.
And so didn't prompt it, but thank you guys, because this would be a perfect time to cut to a shameless promo and explain the ACSS Vulcan from, of course, Primary Arms Optics. Do that in post. Cut it.
Yeah.
Something in.
We'll put something in. I'll do an overlay or something.
Perfect. I always love, of course, for me, going to all the shows, going to dealers. I love when people haven't seen it before and they do see that large outer ring. Of course, for any viewers that don't know what we're talking about, we'll explain this. But
I'll put a picture somewhere.
A very large outer ring that, when the weapon's fully presented, disappears out of your objective. But I like it when people take it and they put it up to their eye and they hold it here when they're seeing it the first time. They're like, that's not usable. What would I ever use a circle for?
Yeah.
So I guess then you want to talk a little bit more about what that circle does, why it's important?
Yeah.
Consideration for something unique like the ACSS Vulcan with that outer ring versus anything else with just a dot, or like you talked about, the donut of death, a much smaller inner circle.
It points you in the direction where you need to go. If you see it on one side, then you need to move it, or up and down, vice versa. So it really, not only with the chevron itself, but if once you present up, you can clearly, decide where you need to move with that circle.
It's kind of a helping aid.
Yes.
I look at it. And correction aid, yeah. And for me, I sort of looked at that. I actually got turned on to that reticle, I think a couple years back. I think James Yeager had one. I saw his video on it. And I'm like, okay, this is really making sense. I'm new to red dots. I want that because I'm new to red dots. Because I was struggling to find the dot. So that whole system is really beneficial. You got the chevron that would help out with eyesight problems. You got the outer ring that can help people find that dot or the chevron, and it's just so much training aids that are beneficial for that. And I really, now that we have one, I really enjoy it, and I really enjoy putting it in new shooters' hands and students' hands. And like I said a little bit ago, I've seen that they're having a more enjoyable experience shooting it. So huge props to you guys on that, because it is really cool. If you haven't seen one, definitely get your hands on one and check it out. And if you're coming to one of my classes, we'll have it with us, because it's something you should definitely look at. It is really well done and really thought out. I mean, I know Dimitri, I've never met the guy, but he's kind of a mad scientist, and that whole ACSS system is incredible. Whether it's on this or whether it's on a rifle, it's incredible.
So if we take the optic cut out of the equation as far as matching up appropriate red dot to a pistol that can mount it, what would you say to a student that says, okay, all right, I'm convinced I should start into a red dot, and given there's such a varying price point as well, there's the mentality of buy once, cry once, but at the same time, how would you point to where to start as far as somewhere along that sliding scale of budget, given that there are some great options on the lower end of the spectrum, or do you save up and buy something top dollar?
Oof. I'm one of those people that's under the mentality of buy once, cry once. We're talking, to me, life-saving equipment here. Self-defense equipment, protecting people you love or yourself. I want things that are going to work, so I'm going to spend, me personally, I'm going to spend the money. I'll save up and I'll spend the money. But money is a real thing. I get that. People can't afford certain things. I would just say, do your research on whatever optic you're looking at. There's a wide range out there too. I mean, we all know, we all three know here that they can get pretty spendy. I don't want to use the word budget friendly optic, but that's the only way I can think about it right now. I mean, man, I don't know. That's a tough one. I would say, I know like your primary arms, you guys' red dots are, you're right in that ballpark of somebody that's doesn't quite have the money to spend the money on something that's $700, $800. Your guys' price points are right in there. I would point them towards you guys. The Hollow Suns, they're they're all in that kind of price range. So that's kind of where I would go. But like I said, it's a really tough question. That's a really tough one.
Well, you purchase one, and if it turns out to be not something that really works for you, or it fails, or there's something wrong with it, you're going to have to go out and spend it on something you wanted in the first place. So why not just save up and get the one you really want?
Mm-hmm. And do your research on them. That's the biggest part. You know, jump on YouTube, look at the reviews from some of these guys that are reviewing them, put them through the test, whatever optic it may be. Whether it's, you know, the list is endless. Do the research on them. If for me personally, I tell them it's like buying a firearm too. Mm-hmm. Go physically look at them. Go look them in the store. Look through the optic. Look through the glass. Glass, you like how clear it is, how advanced, if not so clear to your liking, whatever the case may be, right? So, yeah, par for the course, right? But so that's kind of, yeah, that's like I said, that's a tough one, but that's kind of the direction I'm planning towards.
And go support your local dealer. Trust their expertise.
Absolutely.
Get hands on with it.
Yeah, there you go. That's a better way of breaking it down simpler. Yeah. I've been up 20 hours today, so I'm a little tired. So
all good.
But no, that's exactly, you nailed it. Because these people know, and ask questions to your friends. If they know and they're using them, ask them.
That's another thing I was going to mention.
Hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? I get it every single day. That's what I'm here for. And I don't mind answering the question. I want people to have quality gear and quality, you know, firearms, quality objects, quality everything, because I understand they're going to either they may do it for competition shooting, so that's a whole other realm of things. But I look at, like I said, self-defense. I'm not going to, you know, cut costs just because I can't, you know, I want to save a few dollars. I want to have the best I can to protect myself, my family, and my community. So, just, like I said, do the research, ask around. And like I said, I'm here to answer questions as much as, hey, if I don't know it, I know somebody that does.
So I guess to that end, too, having you as trainers who do this, to actually make people more proficient in skills. You want to talk a little bit about the value add to training? Because I guess it's one thing, especially if you're switching from irons to a red dot, actually going to the range, running it, spending enough time to become better at that. It's a diminishing skill that you have to do to get better. Yep. Where do you see training, going out and spending the money and doing a class like with you two, versus just going and shooting at a range and punching holes in paper? The real value add there.
I think this is the perfect one for you to answer.
So you go to any typical range and you can't really draw from your holster, right? Typically, unless it's some outdoor range of any sort. But going to a range and just putting holes in a piece of paper really isn't. Yeah, you can shoot. I'm sure you can shoot. But in the end of the day, are you going to be able to draw from your holster? Are you going to find that dot? Are you going to find your sights in the matter of the second or two? So, training.
So important?
Yeah. Well, I mean, training's super important. We are always going to be educators first, or we're always students first. We're always going to be students first, and we always love to train, and we always love to share all our knowledge and our experience with our students and our friends. But it's going to be important. You know, you are caring. You are a subject that you're going to be out there, and you got to know your stuff.
There's an attorney attached to every round that comes out of your gun.
Yeah.
You gotta know what you're doing. Your name is signed to every round that comes out of that gun.
That's right.
And as far as training goes, I was shooting for a long time, and then I took my first formal training class back in 2018. Mm-hmm. You don't know what you don't know. Training is absolutely important. I got a huge wake-up call when I took the first class. It was 2 days, fighting pistol was my very first class on tactical response with James Yeager. And I drove with a buddy of mine from TAC Response all the way back to Minnesota. Great shot right from the range, and both him and I were like feeding off each other, like, what about, like we were just in complete awe. And I caught the bug, and then I realized this is, if I'm going to carry a gun every single day, you need training. You know, everybody thinks they have this fantasy, hey, I'm going to do this if this happens. Okay, cool. Have you really thought about what could happen with that? Is that the correct decision? Is that the right decision? will you end up in jail for making a mistake or doing something that what you think is right and it wasn't. So, and ever since that class, I've hit the ground running, and you know I hear it all the time. People are like, oh, I just got my permit, cool, I'm good to go, I know everything, I don't need to train, or I've been shooting for 20 plus years, I don't need to train, or whatever the case may be, right? Get training, and especially if you're making transition from irons to red dots, absolutely get training. You have to, because that's a new skill set, and you want to be able to be proficient with it. Like you said, it's a perishable skill. I'm not. I just told her on the way over here. I was like, hey, I still don't find my dot 100% of the time. I'm probably 80% of the time I'm finding my dot. Mm-hmm. Now we have this red dot class we're going to be taking in September with Kevin Dixie of No Other Choice Firearms. That class is going to yet again. That's going to be a huge eye opener for me. I know I'm proficient enough with my pistol and my firearm. I'm good with it. Now I'm sitting there like, ooh, I'm at a red dot. Okay, I need to know more things about this thing so I can be more proficient. Mm-hmm. So training's huge. The reason I said for her to answer that question is because I think her story of the training is pretty incredible. I think it's the story that people need to hear. How she caught that bug.
So yeah, Kevin Dixie of No Other Choice came out to do his first class, so we invited him out here, and we did Pistol 1 and Pistol 2. And well, I had an accident back in 2016. I got hit by a car, so I have a lot of muscle and nerve damage that I still deal with to this day. But I told Clayton in advance, I said, well, I really want to see how I do this first day, and then we'll see how I do if I want to take the second class the next day. And halfway through the first day, I told Clayton, I said, I'm going to do it. I want to do it. I want to stick with this. And I was hurting. I was hurting really bad. I could hardly walk by the end of the day of the second day. But I caught the bug, and even to this day, I tell people that's what really got me comfortable with carrying a gun every day. Because before then, I wasn't really comfortable. But those 2 days and those skills and the mindset just really pushes hard, like into your soul. So, but another thing with training is muscle memory. You're going to constantly be in a class and you're going to be doing the same thing. The muscle memory, you're not going to get that at a regular range shooting at the paper. So that's a huge thing when it comes to training.
The other huge thing too is you're going to resort to your lowest level of training. So if you just went to a permit class, you go shoot at the range with your buddies at paper targets, you never draw from holster. You don't know how your body's going to react and resort to that. So that to me is too. That's what I do with the muscle memory. So.
You also don't know realistically especially if you've never had to deal with it, but fight or flight. Are you going to fly or are you going to fight? You may think you might fight, but your body and mind might say otherwise.
Everybody thinks they're John Wick until it's time to do John Wick shit.
Exactly.
Like,
exactly.
But yeah, I can't stress training enough. I've never had to use a firearm. I don't ever want to. And I think everybody that chooses to carry a firearm has that mentality. The people that actually train, let's put it that way. And I think a lot of people that don't train as well have that mentality as well. But they also, the people that I notice that I see that don't train or they've been doing this, they also have that fantasy world. Like, I'm going to do this. Well, to steal something from our good friend Kevin Dixie, a firearm's a tool of two things, or one of two things. It's either a tool of freedom or a tool of oppression. You choose, right? So it's training is it's critical. Mm-hmm. If you are going to make the decision to protect yourself, your family, your community, you need to get training. We held a benefit last year, and I had people come out to the range that never took any formal training. And the feedback that I got from them was like, wow, I didn't know that was, I never dropped my holster before. Like all these little things. And now they're like, when can we take this class?
Mm.
So I could go on for hours about training and how it's important. I mean, I really could.
I'll just to kind of tie that back in as far as training, getting as sharp as possible, taking all the advantages that are available to somebody. Would you then say that running a red dot on your carry pistol is essential or should be a very high consideration?
For me, if I would say, yeah. I mean, I love carrying a red dot on my pistol every day. And there's a few other pluses that we didn't touch on that we can if we want to in a little bit here. But I would say, yeah.
Yeah. Well, getting to that, what would be then the big differentiators?
Well, there's a lot of pros. You're going to have more of a field of view looking through an optic, so you're going to be able to have more threat focus. To me, this is me personally running the dot. I feel like I'm a little bit quicker on my target acquisition and my sight alignment. It also increases your effective range. Now, we're not talking we're going to be getting a shooting at 100 yards, but let's just take that shooting that happened in the mall was like reports at 40 yards, 30 yards, whatever. Even distances at those, a red dot is beneficial. You do that with iron sights.
Yeah.
But so it increases your effective range. Those are just probably the biggest things that I could think of. But I do like the fact that you are more threat focused, more sight picture, sight alignment. You get that more field of view. That's personally what I enjoy running red dot.
So when you're talking about speed and accuracy, I guess then for anybody that has not run a red dot before, this gets into the magic behind that, right? That when you have the weapon presented, as long as it's accurately zeroed, where that dot is where the bullet's going to go.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. And if you actually have a really good zero, like you just said, it's point of aim, point of impact. And you want to flip it up and talk defensive shooting, that's where it really comes into play too, because as soon as you see that dot, press a shot. That's simple. As soon as that dot drops in your field of view on, let's say it's my size chest here, crank that shot. Someone's gonna have a bad day. So it is a lot quicker. Like I said, to me personally. I mean, I don't know. You shot a few of them. What do you think too?
From what you said is spot on. I've only been training and running in carrying a red dot for just over a year or so, but I got over the cheating stance, and I'm like, this is what I want, this is what I need, and I think it's beneficial all around.
No, I love them. I'm a huge fan of running red dots. I think personally, if you have, I'll even say this: if you have training with iron sights and you're kind of dancing that line with red dot, yes, it's an investment. Let's touch on that first. It isn't going to be an investment if you have to get your slide cut or if you have an optic cut ready pistol right now. That's not as much, but a couple $100 to send your slide out to get cut, whatever, and then the price of the optic. So it's going to be an investment. You have to really think: do I really want to make that investment? And then if you do, just start dry practicing. Start trying to find that dot. Look for a class. Somebody that's an instructor that's running red dots and has some knowledge that can help you out and kind of get you a little more familiar, more comfortable with it. But other than that, I'm a huge, huge fan of them. I really am. I fell in love with them like from word go.
And wrapping things up, hot take as far as center dot, 1 MOA, 2 MOA, 3 MOA. Is there a right answer?
I don't think so. Personally, I really don't. I've shot at different MOAs. I know. I don't know. I've kind of a big fan of the 3 MOA personally, but I don't think there's a right answer. I think it's a personal preference. That's what I think. But
I agree.
Get training, whether it's irons, whether it's red dot. We've covered the whole gauntlet here, but get training, whatever the case it is. Seek an instructor out, get in the classes, learn how to use them. Red dot, even your irons, because you may think you can run your irons, but probably can learn more.
Mhm.
I know I did. And be more proficient and be more of an asset to yourself, your family, community. You're investing in it for your family. That's the way I look at it.
And if you can't fork out the, few extra hundreds of dollars where it might take for you to drive to another state, we bring instructors in, we bring Kevin Dixie in, so that there is that avenue too. If you want to get training, or at least come to us and be like, hey, can you add on this class with Kevin? We can certainly talk to
We'll have
them.
the conversation.
Absolutely.
And as far as red dots go too, a lot of these websites, I know Primary Arms has, can't think of what you guys use for payment options, but a lot of these websites now have payment plans for them. So you can get into these dots.
I'm not going to make a shameless plug, but if you wanted to look at Primary Arms Optics, we do have a few pistol options starting at $150.
Yeah.
So you could save the money and then spend it on something like
Yep.
Or ammo.
Exactly.
Exactly.
No, and that's both.
Definitely both.
Cheap. But yeah, no, definitely. Check out Primary Arms. I mean, you guys got a ton of stuff on your site. I'm on there all the time looking at things. And then I get the emails. And I'm like, oh, yeah. But no, I mean, it's. I'm glad we were able to do this because we met you down at Train and Learn, which is an awesome event. So hopefully you guys are down in Atlanta next year. We're working on the logistics of getting us there. Kind of have a little scheduling conflict, but we may show up in the middle of the night sometime. We'll see. But yeah, we like I said, we mentioned on Train and Learn. Great conversations were had there, and I'm glad that we were able to. Yeah, like seriously, that Train and Learn is where it's at. If you are in this industry or in the freedom community, check out Kevin Dixie's No Other Choice Train and Learn event. Definitely get there. Seriously, it's worth it. With that being said, before we close out, what was your thoughts? Because you guys haven't been there. What was your thoughts of Train and Learn?
The same thing. It was first time for myself and Ken from Primary Arms as well. So didn't have really an idea of what it was going to be going in. Didn't know just how deep it was going to get as far as the training aspect and the collaboration, bringing everybody together.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of two parts between taking all the educators, content creators, folks who are trying to educate other people about firearms and firearm safety. We knew that kind of surface level, did not realize how deep that was going to go over the course of the few days that we were out there. But that being said, we're absolutely signed off to be there next year. So.
Good.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Well, like I said, we're going to do our best to be there ourselves. So, yeah, with that being said, man, I'm glad we were able to link up and do this, and appreciate the time for sure.
Absolutely. And hopefully, apologize to everybody for all the noise. We're here at Primary Farms Optics, active operations. So.
It's all right. We can try to drown it a little bit, hopefully, with editing right now. So I appreciate it, Ryan. I really do. And yeah, man.
Thank you both.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.